Vosh silenced a bunch of trans people during Trans Awareness Week. Which brings us on to the tail end of this story, and that's the fact that someone rather close to Vosh and his protege Zanderhal decided that after watching Vosh effectively hammer down on a soft trans person and making it so that they're like afraid to speak out on the topic, decided it would be a great idea to go ahead and make a video celebrating these wonderful cis allies. Even though our thumbnail included several, the only ones she actually talked about in the video are Zanderhal and Vosh. And as if anyone's going to be surprised at that, at this, it was, of course, Riley Grace Roshong, Xander's personal attorney. I'm just going to...
Not a real attorney, by the way. We have to make that clear.
Oh, yes, we have to make that clear. Yeah, it's just like... She's picked up the name as Zanderhal's personal attorney because, like, she is like a defense lawyer trying to fight to get her client off no matter what. I had a run-in with Riley after dealing with Zanderhal. For those who don't know, I've had issues with Zanderhal in the past. When I criticised ContraPoints, he came out, posted a load of lies about me. Levi did an excellent breakdown showing how they were lies and like with evidence of what I actually said.
It's mediocre at best.
Zanderhal said I said. And then like it just continued to go along. And then Zanderhal decided that he was going to take my advocacy. For those who don't know, I am both a domestic violence survivor. I am also a survivor of child sexual assault. He decided to take that advocacy for years, the stuff I'd been doing to build a community in which survivors can come and talk and be listened to and know that they're not alone. He took that and argued, well, I know this Ethel person has, a history of childhood abuse, and therefore, quite clearly they've taken on the abusive personality due to the cycle of violence and all this. I was not the first person they'd done this to, by the way. They done it to someone else, and they got shut down on that as well. And so I called that out, because, like, again, I am not fucking taking that lying down. I Levi deal with, like, the first lies about Natalie, because whatever. But, like, this was something so fucking core to me, so important, and so fucking harmful to effectively bring up my history of advocacy and the abuse that I've shared as a silencing technique. So I took him to town for it. Pointing out how, like, this is ableist and it's transphobic, because of course he was using a lot of transphobic slurs as well. It's like when you link, like, people believe that trans people are mentally ill, etc., and a lot of what you say kind of like feeds into that. Like they're mentally ill, they're violent, etc. I pointed out how this stuff was also transphobic. Riley came along and decided she wants to be peacemaker. She claims she's going to be this objective peacemaker. She goes on to admit that Zanderhal, what he was doing was transphobic. She went on to admit that, yes, he'd been told repeatedly that this stuff was ableist and transphobic. She then concluded that the fact that he had been told this, continued to do it, did not make him transphobic. That in spite of his continued actions, he should not be classed as transphobic. He's actually a trans ally. And so I've just picked to avoiding her at that point. I watched the first video she did on me as like, the moment you admit that this is transphobic, the moment you admit that Zanderhal's doing it after he knows it's transphobic, and that yet you conclude that he isn't transphobic by doing that, like that's not good faith to talk in that. Quite clearly, you're just here to defend Zanderhal, no matter what Zanderhal does. I've had someone else tell me that in like the last video, she gets really angry at me and like starts blaming me for the fact that I didn't let her, heal the rift between us. And it's like, why am I going to let you heal a rift when the person who is constantly abusing me shows no sign of wanting to fix things? She doesn't seem to get that, and it's just, video response on all that coming up. But anyway, she decided to come out with this video celebrating both Zanderhal and Vosh, and I've got some notes on that. She first of all presents this idea that people like me take an issue of allies supporting trans people, which is not what the arguments are. The problem is, Riley's definition of what makes an ally makes it impossible to distinguish between them and homophobes, making the word all but useless. She also pretends like the only thing wrong with Rosh and Zanderhol, again, her examples, her only examples, is their willful ignorance on trans issues, or tone deafness, as she puts it. So that just erases the harm they cause to the community as a whole by constantly attacking and abusing trans folk and sending their fan bases to do the same. Like, she completely ignores the actual issue. Again, Zanderhol literally weaponized the childhood abuse of multiple trans people who have criticized his behavior as a means of excluding them from discussion, claiming that said childhood abuse is evidence that they themselves have an abusive personality. Rosh, meanwhile, has got his fans to dogpile leftist trans content creators to the point that they remove their post and leave the discussion. All of this is just ignored. What's really ironic is the fact that Riley says her main goal with the channel is trying to get allies to listen to trans people. And this just struck me with such disbelief because, like, even she can't be so, like, it's so dishonest to, like, take the position that someone who doesn't listen to trans people can at all be a trans ally. I don't know how much you want to say on that, or if we should start taking questions about the first topic, because I feel like we got to the end. I should probably restate my final point, because I was, like, dying by the end of that. Right, where is it? Yes, Riley acknowledges that it's easier for white cis guys to get established than a trans person, but she never stops to wonder if her so-called allies are largely responsible. Again, there was this one soft YouTuber who, sizable channel, comparable to mine, completely, like, forced out of conversation. And it's like, no wonder it's hard for them to get established. Because anytime they are critical of someone, anytime they break rank, they are shut down with such, like, vitriolic abuse. It's just, the lack of self-awareness by Riley is just absolutely stunning. And, like, again, if anyone has any questions, any points they'd like to bring up in the chat, we'd be quite happy to, like, respond to that. Now that people have actually seen what we have to say on the topic, rather than, like, coming along before the video has appeared,